this neighborhood. So I just want to raise that for consideration, Greg.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, uh, so first of all, I'm a biker like some of you guys, and so I definitely can associate with what you guys are saying. And I've actually been hit by a car on my bike, so I understand the safety issues as well. Um, and so the good news, I guess you guys like to know, is there's really no money for any of this. So there's a lot of plan, a lot of talk, but there really is no funding to actually pay for any of this. You guys may not know, but the city is running a deficit. They ran a deficit last year. They're running a deficit. Basically, the deficit went up like 60% this year or 70%. It's now like $7 million. We're $7 million in a hole this year, right? So we're draining our reserves. We're going to drain our reserves next year and the year after and the year after and the year after that. So so there's all these plans, but the reality is there's really no money for it. Not unless, the federal government just drops money into Palo Alto, which rarely happens. So there's not, you know, um, immediate, this is not going to happen immediately because really there's no money for it. But, I personally don't think that, putting bikers, cars, pedestrians kind of underground make a lot of sense. I actually feel that if we put anything underground, it should be the train versus the people. Um, but either case, there's no money for either. We've been talking about this for a heck of a long time, even when I first got in council. I'm on my 8th year now, so we've been talking about this for a long time. But I think the challenge is there really is no money, like to do almost anything. So, but what this does do though is it puts a cloud of uncertainty if you guys ever want to sell your property, so basically, because you got to disclose this now, right? Say, hey, potentially eminent domain type issues. And so I think that and I've been fairly consistent on council, but I think that um uh eminent domain should be off the table. I don't support any of the solutions that require eminent domain because I think it's, first of all, crazy expensive because the people's property is going to be taken is going to be, they're going to fight tooth and nail, right? And there's going to be litigation, right? There's going to be, lawsuits and drag on for a long, long time. And so I don't think that is, a uh, low cost solution to basically take people's property. I think it's also just not the right thing when there's a lot of other solutions that don't, right? You could underground the train, which, I think is the best solution because it gets rid of, the noise, gets rid of the pollution, gets rid of, the interruption of traffic, and everything else can stay at grade. The cars, the bikers, everything else can stay at grade. So it makes it very, very convenient. Um, or, like the other option is elevated, right? But the solution of basically moving the roads or the bikers and putting them underground through long tunnels, right? Which I do agree is a little bit dangerous, right? I mean, tunnels generally tend to be a source of crime, so it's not good. And so, and to subject our kids to that, I have kids, so you know, I don't want that. So, yeah, so you guys are generally preaching to the choir on this, but the other topic you guys brought up, which I think is a big problem, is there's not much disclosure, kind of to your point, Jackie, in terms of when this stuff happens, right? People tend to be very surprised. And I think the outreach that the city does needs to be way better because um, I think this is our second or third one on this topic, and we've had people time and time again say the first they've heard about it, right? And it's crazy, right? We have I don't know, 4 or 5 PR people, public relations people in our city, right? It's like we have a humongous office, um, and yet somehow um, you know this kind of stuff that's really important to people isn't getting out there. And so we need to do better, especially given the amount of money we're spending on this. I don't think, I mean, I think San Jose has maybe offices as big as ours, but they're like 5 times our population, right? So it's crazy. How can our city with the population our size and have such a large city manager office, such a large public relations office? How can we not be keeping people updated as to what's going on? It's just unfathomable to me.
Greg, I mean, maybe at another time, or we could talk now. But certainly we can brainstorm ideas. I'm even thinking about there are volunteers in the neighborhood that volunteer for, emergency response services, right? Not
Mhm.
everyone knows who they are. I happen to know my next door neighbor was one of them that volunteered for that.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a way, just one idea, right, of reaching out into the community and having people like me and one of my neighbors, the moment we found out, we started going up and down to probably 85, 100 residences. Nobody knew. So we take it on, and then there's like the chain of events, right? We
Yeah.
pass the torch. I'm sure there's many, many other
Mhm.
ideas. This is just, gut feel and idea in the moment. But it does seem important. I even called a friend who lives on Churchill. And can you imagine she's in probably the 200 block, but had no idea. I'm like, this is right in your backyard.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk tonight.
Mhm.
So, I don't want to point a finger. I'd really like to talk to you about, okay, what are some solutions here? Because
Yeah.
these issues are too important, and possibly it means better engagement for an informed community and for all the work that you all do, right? You want an audience, an
Yeah.
informed audience, not an audience that's going to come and yell and kick and scream, but an informed audience to help you make good decisions on their behalf, which is what you're trying to all do. And we know that. My question for you in this moment, though, is how do we, and how can you, and how do we help you kind of put a stop to this potential proposal? Because once my hope is that the members of the rail committee that voted to move a tunnel to Seal, I'd
Mhm.
like for them to squash all ideas of any tunnel like that, honestly, whatever street. I don't even think it belongs on Kellogg. And certainly I don't think it belongs here for many reasons. I don't even know how we'll get out of our own street if that should occur. It also assumes that you're going to change all of the bike paths, and that the actual route that bikers take will change. It may not, and then you spend all this money on nothing, for nothing. But regardless of that, what do we need to do? How can we support you to hopefully change people that I hope are not wedded to a decision that they made previously? It takes a lot to be able to say, you know what, I rethought. My hope is that they can do that. And my hope is that clearly the entire city council will agree that this is not something that we're going to move forward with, and just kind of cut it, because it does
Mm.
create tremendous angst
Mhm.
for all of us day in, day out. Once I know something, I need closure. But it's my personal issue. I know it takes time, and there are, more significant issues that you're grappling with elsewhere in the community in this moment. But I think it's important that we could at least put a closure to this. If we believe it will never happen, if we believe it's too expensive, if we don't believe it's the right solution, why are we wasting time? I would much rather you all talk about the seriousness of other issues that are on the table and what we're grappling with, today.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
how can you answer that? Like
Yeah,
how?
absolutely. So, so largely, I think you guys, as I said, appreciating the choir. So I'm kind of in full agreement with all that you guys said. So, but the way the city council works is there's seven of us, right? And there are three people on the rail committee who, apparently thought this was a great idea. And I'm not on the rail committee, so, it will come to council. But what's really important is to get, three other council members on board with what you guys are thinking about. And so it's you have to basically talk to other council members. And it's great to talk to me, and and this is one reason like we live stream it, because you have to kind of build up kind of support for this, or your perspective. And but it's really taking three other council members, right? So how the rail committee voted. People do change their minds, but not too often. But there are four other council members then who, that aren't on the rail committee, right? Myself included. But there's in order for it's majority rules on council. So basically, you have to do kind of what you're doing, talk to your neighbors, get a petition going, get people to show up at city council, talk about it during this item when the item comes up. But that's what it takes. Not all
So,
my colleagues have office hours, so it's a little bit tough sometimes to reach them. But
right.
but um, but Yeah,
We know of one rail committee member who agrees with us. And so my question is, how does it work? Do you all then take another vote, all seven of you?
so the rail committee recommendation goes to city council. So rail committee is just a subset of city council members. So it goes to city council, and then basically there needs to be these 4 votes, right, on this.
Okay. And
So
then, yeah,
so that's how you affect it. It's basically get 3 other council members, right? Or if there's a real someone that's going to change their mind or supports your perspective, then you just need to get 2 more.
mhm.
Greg, I have a question that kind of taking a step back from this, and I really appreciate your candor in the conversation we're having tonight. But and that in particular, there's no money for this.
That's right.
This feels to me like a deja vu of the high-speed rail here in California.
Yeah.
This wonderful pipe dream is going to be at $30 billion. It's what, $110 billion now. They've just all this wasted money out in the Central Valley, but it's created all of this expectation of something that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so back to your point, it's a very valid one. I'm surprised none of us raised it because it means to us individually significant diminution of value to our properties here.
That's right.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars going to be lost because of this pipe dream that may never come to fruition.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very disappointing. Whether there's 3 people or 4 people that are championing this thing, are they really putting this into context and realizing there's no money for this? So why are we having discussions on this now? It's creating all this angst and diminution of our respective values. If they were in our shoes, they would be equally as aghast at what is happening here. Why is this being championed?
Yeah. When I sit there at, our meetings go quite long. We start at like 5:30, but like recently we've been starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we go to like 11 midnight, right? Sometimes past midnight. And I also wonder about the same thing, which is we have a lot of things we have to deal with. Why do we talk about things we simply, as a city, we simply have no money, right? We are broke, right? And the funny thing is most people don't even know that the city is broke, right? But the city is totally broke right now. And we're draining our reserves like crazy. And we have no hope of even paying for any of this stuff. And so I sit there at night and wonder, why are we talking about this? Because yes, there is no money. All it does is put a cloud over everyone's head, right? It's just all bad, right? So I personally feel like we should table it until when there's actually some sort of funding in place. But or what we should do, like what I think is just plan for it to be underground, because most places where the land value is as high as Palo Alto, right? Where you look at almost any city, right? Any place where the land value per acre is as much as ours, it's always undergrounded. And because if you factor in all the lawsuits that will happen when we take people's houses, and each intersection we're talking about spending 200, like hundreds of millions of dollars, right, to do this. It's not that much cheaper to do it, just to move the roads and then cause all these people angst. So to me, it's like either we do it and we do it right, or we don't do it right. I mean,
do we know, Greg, do we even know what the if let's just say for argument's sake, funding to move it underground will be comparable to eminent domain, buying properties, lawsuits, all of that, let's just say. Whatever it costs, do we know whether or not structurally that's something that could be done, and how it would be done?
The city has no money, right? So we'd have to do something. We'd have to raise taxes again, or as you guys probably know, we raised some of the utility rates to 15%, right? We've been raising them 15% a year, right? So I mean, it's massive rate increases. We were basically taking money out of our utilities and shoveling it into the general fund because we're trying to plug a hole in our budget. And so I mean, there's no hope of paying for something like this now without some sort of. And the state's broke too, so the state's not going to give us money. So the only one that can print money is the federal government, which they don't, for whatever reason, don't give Palo Alto money. So we rarely get money.
Sorry. We have another resident coming in, so it's probably a good time to start concluding the conversation now.
Okay. Thank you, Kwa. Okay, guys. Any final questions, last words?
No, Greg, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the rest of others for taking the time on a Sunday evening You're a
Yeah.
busy guy. Really appreciate your openness and your candor with us and just hearing us out. So it's really been very refreshing to meet you and conversation.
Okay, thank you. And Cole could always schedule more time if we want to continue the conversation. But thank you guys for talking with me during my office hours.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg.
you.
And I'll
Thanks,
just
Cal, for your help.
thank you. I'll leave it with this. We'll seek to reach out to your fellow colleagues little by little, and truly anything you could do to also exert your own influence and talk reason into a conversation that's going to go nowhere. We'd really appreciate that too.
I would certainly try. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, guys.
Night.